Good morning, Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. In June of last year, I turned 50. That's right, meditation teachers half a century old. That means that my musical tastes, superior, may be different than your own. Crash! Sorry about that, don't know what's going on. When I was in junior high, when I turned on to rock and roll music, I remember hearing on the radio the Rolling Stones song whose refrain was, "You can't always get what you want." And ain't that a pisser? But I'll tell you, the frustration, the petulance, the sadness, the grief, the Machiavellian plotting and scheming, despite not getting what we want, in an effort to get what we want, can make for some very interesting meditation sessions. Now, I'm not using interesting as a euphemism. There's an old saying, what's the difference between a professional and an amateur? Where an amateur says, oops, a professional says, interesting. Bullshit. So when I say interesting, I'm not trying to bullshit you. I mean, let's face it, sitting on your tuchus for an hour every morning and an hour every night could get boring unless interesting things come up. And not getting what we want when we want it, not keeping what we like for as long as we'd like to, or enduring what we don't like, and our reactions to that can be very, very helpful. I'm a big fan of Kyle Cease. Whether he knows it or not, I feel that he's doing a good job of intuiting and psychic downloading a retelling of the Tao Te Ching for a contemporary audience. Don't claim to read his mind. That's just how his stuff looks to me, and I think that's great. He once said, we get so focused on what we want, we forget the possibility there may be a dozen things 10 times better than the one specific particular thing we have fixated on. And so what can be very, very useful is when we feel the frustration of not getting what we want when we want it. Notice what it is that we do want. No, I'm not talking about doing that for manifestation purposes. There's nothing good or bad about manifesting. But it can give us greater insight. After all, it would kind of suck if the universe was conspiring just to piss us off. Isn't it more empowering to play with the possibility the universe is showing us things so we can be more aware of what we need and what we desire? Not so that we can be slaves to those things, but so that we can cooperate to a greater degree with the universe itself. And that reminds me of what I consider a funny story. I used to be married to a lovely girl. She was half Bengali and half American mutt. And her dad was full Bengali. He was a funny, funny guy. And he said, when you dance in the ballroom, you don't need to, your partner does not need to know all these steps. You just guide your partner like a joystick in a video game. You just twist her wrist and she'll follow. Well, that kind of sounds like BDSM dancing, doesn't it? What's that? Wrist lock for your partner? And then on our wedding day, My poor former wife. She's trying to dance with her father, looking like, a princess from a Disney movie. And her father's trying to guide her around the dance floor by manipulating her wrist back and forth, and she wasn't having any of it. So I say this not to make fun of my late father-in-law, who really was a funny, funny guy and really loved those in his life very dearly. But to say that just as he felt frustration trying to guide his daughter around the ballroom, but with obscure wrist gestures that she did not understand, how frustrating it must be for the universe. Assuming the universe is benevolent and, wants to bless us in many, many ways, if it's trying to guide us and we're resisting it and going the opposite way and saying, I know you want to give me a brand new Tesla, but I really, really want a gross polluting Chevrolet circa 1972. Right? And so rather than the universe, putting us in wrist locks that we don't understand around the ballroom of life, wouldn't it be cool if the petty frustrations we endure were meant to educate us so that we would be able to cooperate with the universe in its efforts to better meet our needs. Not all needs, not all desires are mutually beneficial. For instance, I once dated a lovely gal who was into BDSM. She told me to slap her and call her a slut. I said I'd rather caress your face and call you a lovely woman, beautiful girl. And to which she looked me deep in the eye and said, I hate you. So obviously her needs and my needs were mutually exclusive. There was no overlapping Venn diagram. Her needs, my needs, opposite ends of the spectrum. Once again, lovely person, just different tastes. So once the universe has succeeded in showing us what we need and what we desire, that's no guarantee that the people in our lives at this moment will be able to meet those needs and those desires in a way that also meets their needs and their desires. And so we come to a very difficult thing. Do we choose to be selfish bastards? Do we choose to manipulate others into meeting our needs, even if it means it's going to make them miserable? Or do we give them permission to be their own people with their own needs? Now, does that mean the moment you see a seemingly apparent incompatibility, that you should cut and run and just sprint the other way? That's what we would call chaotic contrivance. Making a decision based on the wisdom of your prefrontal cortex. Don't recommend that. I don't think Lao Tzu would recommend that. He would say, oh cool, you've made a distinction. Bravo. Notice that distinction and relax. We cannot choose to be spontaneous, but we can set space for spontaneity to come up at its speed, at its time, in its way. And remember, despite what some self-help guru may teach you, neither you nor I are the masters of the universe. We don't have the wisdom, no less the power, to decide what's best for whom and when. But the neat thing, one of the promises inferred in the Tao Te Ching is that the universe does have that wisdom. And by flowing with the universe, we will spontaneously choose or utter or do the right thing at the right time in the right way. Now, the test of it being right is not always apparent. It's not always. Sometimes you can do the right thing and won't feel right at that second. But in hindsight, you can say, wow, I'm really glad that happened in just that way. I don't know if you've like me, but I've squandered decades of my life trying to be Peter Perfect, to do the right thing at the right time in the exact right words. And even though my heart was keen to make that happen, my mind was not up to the task. Now, there are some people who think I'm kind of smart, but my mind was not up to the task. Here, psst, want to know a secret? Nobody's mind is. That's where we plug into what Carl Gustav Jung referred to as the collective unconscious, or what Lao Tzu referred to as the original nature, or the Tao. We plug into that by making a habit of noticing and relaxing and flowing. Let the universe lead us through the ballroom at its pace, in its direction, in its style, in its choosing. And if there's any, guys struggling with testosterone poisoning, and if any of you guys think that's kind of queer, that's kind of gay, that's kind of effeminate, and the answer is, well, yes, it is. And you know what, men? We have a lot to learn from women, and we have a lot to learn from effeminate men, and we have a lot to learn from homosexuals, bisexuals, and any other sexual permutation out there. Because any evolutionary biologist will tell you that variety is a requirement for survival. For surviving, no less thriving. The more varied our inputs are, the more resilient we are. The opposite is true. The narrower our experience, the smaller the possibilities, the smaller the prison we metaphorically build for ourselves. And so yes, the Tao Te Ching says, know the male, but keep to the female. That's why when you see a yin-yang, a circle divided by an S, there's a dot on each side, and that's the black yin with a little dot of yang. So we're not completely ignorant to our testosterone-ness, but we rely more than 90% upon the yin. And that makes life work a whole lot better. My friends, and thank you for your time and your kind attention. Remember, this week, the Saturday morning series of weekly webinars begins on the 5th. If you'd like to participate, whether you're in any English-speaking country, whether you're in Europe or Great Britain or in North or South America, below this video there's a button that reads Show More. Click that. It'll reveal a list of links. One of them you can use to begin your registration process. Don't worry, I'm not asking an arm and a leg. It's only by donation. Some give a lot, some give a little, some give nothing. Some folks give the same amount they would pay to attend a yoga class. The only thing I demand is two. Number one, get to class 5 minutes early. Except for the first week, you'll want to come in 15 minutes early because you won't be used to, the webinar platform. The second thing I demand is you do your damn homework to the best of your ability. And when you come up to the brick wall of you not being able to do your homework, you write notes and ask questions so I can help you through the process, because that's why you deal with a flesh and blood teacher in real time, because he's made every mistake in the book and can help you on the journey. May you and yours be healthy and happy. Peace.